Hello YouTube. Not long ago I made a video about the discovery of the second moon, and it was in the year of 1846. The discovery was made. See the link in the description to this video. But I think that I'm onto something bigger. You see, that year, 1846, was a very unusual year. So in 1846, strange anomalous phenomena occurred worldwide. In 1846, an incredible phenomenon swept the world, a bloody rain. According to newspaper reports of the time, several areas of the planet witnessed this terrible phenomenon. But that was just the beginning. Strange lights and glowing objects were noticed in the sky, adding to the mystery of this phenomenon. The history of bloody rains and falling strange substances has many cases through the century, actually. They are not limited to simple downpours, but turn into real floods. The frequency and variety of this phenomenon is really amazing. And I'm just citing some of the researchers that talk about this in Russia, for example, but sources is the real issue. I'll get to it. The most incredible things have fallen from the sky, and this cannot be ignored. Here are just some of the items that were recorded falling from the sky with the rain: alabaster, ants, ash, beef, beetle larvae, berries, bitumen, blood, oil, charcoal, porcelain fragments, cobwebs, coins, crabs, crayfish, eels, fish, flesh, gelatinous substance. But that's not all. Grain, hay, ice, iron balls, jellyfish, limestone, lizards, mud, mussels, oyster shells, stones, quartz, resin, salt, sand, sandalwood, seeds, silk, snails, snakes, spiders, carved and shaped stones, turtles, and toads also fell from the sky. But the most amazing thing was the blocks of ice, huge bloody chunks of ice breaking on houses and cars. And all this happened in the complete absence of rain. So what causes this strange phenomena? How do such diverse objects end up in the sky and fall to the ground? Science still cannot give an exact answer to these questions. One hypothesis connects the blood rains with meteors. Some scientists suggest that when meteorites enter the atmosphere, red pigment is released, which may explain the bloody shade of rain. However, this theory or hypothesis does not explain the appearance of other strange objects. Another hypothesis connects this phenomena with mysterious atmospheric conditions. Perhaps there are certain combinations of humidity, temperature, and air currents that contribute to the formation and fall of these strange substances. However, there is not yet sufficient scientific data to confirm this hypothesis. Many scientists believe that these phenomena have a natural origin and are associated with natural processes. However, there are those who believe that this may be a consequence of the activity of unknown forces, or even a sign of contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Unfortunately, so far, none of the hypotheses has concrete evidence. I would say this mysterious phenomena, almost very few people pay attention to it. I found some obscure mentions, something from France and so forth, but Charles Fort, he did pay attention. Charles Fort, who lived between 1874 and 1932, in his Book of the Damned, reported that in 1846, according to newspaper reports of the time, real bloody rain fell in several areas of the world, and all sorts of strange lights and luminous objects were seen in the sky. The range and frequency of things falling from the sky, along with torrential rains, is truly astounding. And we're not just talking about one or two instances where the sky has fallen from the sky, so to say. They range from showers to floods, and should be kept in mind to anyone who is interested in the mud flow. There have been reports of alabaster, ants, ash, beef, beetle larva, berries, bitumen, blood oil, charcoal, broker porcelain, ash, coal, cobwebs, coins, crabs, crayfish, eels, fish, flesh, gelatinous matter. In addition, grain, hay, ice, iron balls, jellyfish, limestone, lizards, mud, mussels, oyster shells, stones, quartz, resin, salt, sand, sandalwood, seeds, silk, snails, snakes, caviar fell from the sky, spiders, carved and shaped stones, turtles, and of course toads and frogs. So we know now where this information is borrowed from by others who don't refer to Charles Fort. Blocks of ice also fell from the sky, huge bloody chunks of ice smashing against houses and cars. They fell from a cloudless sky in the complete absence of rain. So Charles Fort, I think, would be the original source. But now we know, 1846, second moon is discovered and then it's gone. Okay? I don't think there was another vision or observations of the moon after that, of the second moon. Now we know about this strange blood rain phenomena. And myself separately, I found a very obscure mention in a very old book about French report of blood rain. That's separate from Charles Fort and whoever copies him now. But let's now move on to South America, same year. Captain Augusto João Manuel Leverger and his crew witnessed a UFO. It was simultaneously observed by Brazilian minister in Paraguay at that time, José Antonio Pimenta Bueno. On July 5th, 1846, Captain Augusto Leverger, a Brazilian Navy officer, and his crew witnessed a strange aerial phenomenon over the Paraguay River. His story is now considered as the first official UFO report in the history of Brazil. I've been to Brazil years ago. I lectured, and I have nothing but respect for Brazilian researchers. And one of my good friends passed away. He was a very, very important UFO researcher, A.J. Govard, in Brazil. And I also was in Paraguay, and I have nothing but respect for what I have seen in Paraguay. But that was a long time ago. One of the best sources I found in Open Minds website is from 2010, referring to this 1846 case. So, while researching the official files in various Brazilian websites, Antonio Hunes found a fascinating case from 1846 that has to be considered as the very first official UFO report in Brazilian history, since it was written by an important Navy officer and published in the official Gazette of the Empire of Brazil on November 26, 1846. Investigative reporter and author J. Antonio Hunes has covered the UFO field from an international perspective for over 30 years. I think more now than that. I think more like 40 years. His articles have appeared in dozens of publications in the United States, Latin America, Europe, and Japan. I knew him and I was in touch with him back in the 1990s. Maybe a little bit later too, but not recently. The case he refers to was discovered by Edison Boaventura Jr., president of the Grupo Ufológico de Guarujá, if I pronounce it right, and published in his website in an article titled UFO Sighted by Brazilian Military Prior to 1947. The article also included some World War II Foo Fighter cases reported by Brazilian pilots in the Italian theater of war. The Navy officer who published the 1846 UFO report in the Imperial Gazette had impeccable credentials. Augusto João Manuel Ravager, Baron of Melgaço, was born in 1802 in the French port city of Saint-Malo in Brittany. He sailed with his father to South America in 1819 and went to Brazil after his father's death in Buenos Aires in 1822, joining the Imperial Navy in 1824 with the rank of the second lieutenant. He had an outstanding career in the Brazilian Imperial Navy, where he was promoted to frigate captain, equivalent to lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy, in 1842, and eventually to rear admiral in 1854, and 2 years later to vice admiral. He distinguished himself particularly by his hydrographical studies and exploration of the Paraguay River and the then still largely uncharted border areas between Brazil's Mato Grosso and Paraguay, publishing several scientific papers and charts. Lavager participated in several military campaigns. The most famous was his defense of Mato Grosso in 1865 against the Paraguayan invasion during the War of the Triple Alliance, in which Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay fought against Paraguay, for which he was rewarded with the title of Baron of Melgaço by Emperor Pedro II. Lavager was also active in civilian posts, serving 5 times as president of the province, now state of Mato Grosso. He retired from public life in 1870 and died in 1880 in his beloved city of Cuiabá, which he had defended so effectively during the Triple Alliance War. In 1846, Brazil was flexing its muscles against Paraguay, so frigate Captain Lavager was sent in charge of 2 gunboats, the 18 de Julio, July 18th, and the 23 de Fevereiro, February 23rd, on the Paraguay River all the way to Asunción, Paraguay's capital. The sighting itself took place about 19 miles away from Asunción, where the phenomenon was also seen by the Brazilian ambassador, Dr. José Antonio Pimenta Bueno, Marquis of São Vicente, and many other witnesses. We don't know the exact date of the event, but from the biographical details of Lavager's travels, we know that he was in Asunción in June of 1846. Captain Lavager wrote a detailed report of the sighting, which was published in the official gazette of the Empire of Brazil on November 26, 1846, Volume 1, number 74, page 295. The terms UFO, UAO, unidentified aerial object, a term that was later used by the Brazilian Air Force, or flying saucer are naturally not used by Lavager, since none of them existed in his time, but the Gazette referred to it as an extraordinary meteorological phenomenon. Here then is the English translation of Captain Lavager 1846 UFO sighting, and again, it's Mr. Junius that we have to thank for this. I observed tonight a phenomenon never seen before. At 5 hours 57 minutes, while the sky was perfectly clear and calm, thermometer temperature 60 degrees Fahrenheit, a luminous globe performed with instant speed a 30-degree curve in the northerly western direction. The direction made on the horizon angles of approximately 75 and 105 degrees, opened by a steep west side. A light band 5 or 6 degrees long and 30 to 35 degrees wide remained, in which one could see 3 bodies, whose brightness was much more lively than the band, and equaled, if not exceeded in intensity, the full moon in clear weather. They were superimposed or separated from each other. The middle one had an almost circular appearance. The bottom one seemed like an arc of a circle of 120 degrees with broken rays at the end. The form at the top was an irregular quadrangle. The larger dimension of the discs would be from 20 to 25 degrees. Finally, you could see above them a ribbon of very faint light in the form of zigzag about 3 degrees wide and 5 or 6 degrees long. The angular height of the Big Bend on the horizon appeared to be of 8 degrees. Afraid of losing some circumstances of the phenomenon, I did not go to the get instrument to measure these dimensions. Everything was lowering with no apparent velocity greater than the stars in their twilight, but the globes of light changed aspect, taking an increasingly flat elliptical shape, and in the mist began to look like small clouds. The Big Bend leaned north until becoming almost horizontal, but the zigzag always retained the same direction. After 25 minutes, it was all gone, and there was not the slightest sign of disturbance in the atmosphere. In the city of Asuncion, I talked to the minister, ambassador of Brazil, the Marquis of São Vicente, and several other people who witnessed this. For us all, singular appearance. A circumstance which struck me as very worthy of note was the direction of the phenomenon observed by the minister. There was no mistake, because his remark referred to a wall whose azimuth was easy to verify, and this direction was close to west-northwest, doing so by an angle of 45 degrees to the north-northwest that I noticed. Doing a trigonometric calculation of this huge parallax combined with the geographic position of Asuncion and the place where I observed it, I estimated that the phenomenon was registered on the atmospheric region only 59 leagues, 19.47 miles away from Asuncion. Captain Leverager's report, published in the Imperial Gazette and seen by the Marquis of São Vicente and many other witnesses, what exactly did they see? We don't know for sure, but whatever it was certainly highly unusual. Edison Boaventura, who discovered the case, concluded his article with the following paragraph: "Today we know that this case, which took place during the time of the Brazilian Empire, cannot be explained as a meteorite or a natural atmospheric phenomenon, mainly because of this sighting's duration time of 25 minutes. Therefore, I understand that this case has incalculable ufological importance by the characteristics that were described and by being the very first UFO, in parentheses, event published in a national newspaper, and moreover witnessed by experienced and respectable men." 18th, so we already know, in addition to the moon, to the blood rain, there was a very interesting UFO sighting in Brazil. I'm sure there were other UFO sightings, but you needed sometimes trained observers and those who would write them down worldwide. There was something else about 1846. It was one of the hottest years on record, by the way. It's like in the United Kingdom, I understand June was horribly hot. And I think it was only equaled in 2023 with the degree of heat experienced in the country and outside of the borders too. But there also was 1846 Havana hurricane, also known as the Great Havana Hurricane of 1846, San Francisco de Borja Hurricane, and the Great Gale of 1846. It was the most intense tropical cyclone in recorded history and the first known Category 5 strength hurricane to strike Cuba. The impacts of the hurricane were extreme throughout the state of Florida, especially in the Florida Keys. But something else I observed from some of the interesting Russian research sites. In 1846, there were 11 tsunamis in Italy without specifying the intensity. Greece, Turkey, and other countries did not reflect these tsunamis. So there were events, meteorological or weather events, in the history of our planet in 1846 that really were not recorded, or records were destroyed. I don't know. But I want to tell you something else that was interesting. Neptune was telescopically discovered by Johann Gottfried Galle and Heinrich Louis d'Arrest in Berlin on September 23, 1846, based on the prediction by Robert Joseph Leverrier. Very interesting. But let's look at something else. It may be just a coincidence, most likely it is, but I read this case years ago, and let me tell you, and you decide. It was on a summer day in 1846 at London's Grand Egyptian Hall. Joseph Faber unveiled one of the strangest inventions to come out of the 19th century technological boom. For 1 shilling a head, spectators were brought into a scarcely lit back room to see the Euphonia, a machine that boasted the ability to replicate human speech. In the middle of the disheveled chamber sat a piano-like instrument, coupled with a female automation whose face, framed with ringlet curls, stared vacantly into the crowd. Professor Faber, a shy German astronomer turned inventor, stood behind the keys of his device, hoping desperately that the few people in attendance would be sufficiently impressed by what he was about to show them. The Euphonia was the product of 25 years of research and an undeniably impressive feat of engineering. 14 piano keys controlled the articulation of the Euphonia's jaw, lips, and tongue, while the roles of the lungs and larynx were performed by a bellows and an ivory reed. The operator could adjust the pitch and accent of the Euphonia's speech by turning a small screw or inserting a tube into its nose. It was reported that it took Faber 7 long years simply to get his machine to correctly pronounce the letter E. The Euphonia began the exhibition at Egyptian Hall by saying, "Please excuse my slow pronunciation. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a warm day. It is a rainy day. Buongiorno, signori." Spectators were then invited to ask the Euphonia to speak whatever words they wished in any European language. Faber then had the automation sing a haunting rendition of God Save the Queen in celebration of the inaugural London show. Well, the crowd's response to the Euphonia was abysmally short of Faber's expectations. The very few people in attendance left feeling not invigorated by the promise of technological progress, but sadder, wiser, and frankly pretty creeped out. While in London, the Euphonia received some enthusiastic reviews. The Times even went so far as to proclaim it was almost the duty of all who can afford to see it to gratify at once their curiosity and show their encouragement of genius. So why did the general public so flatly reject Faber's machine? People liked that the Euphonia could parrot human speech. They enjoyed that it could change accents and languages with the turn of a screw or a stroke of a key. They didn't like its vacant stare, its strange rubber tongue that lolled around its empty mouth as it spoke, or the fact that it seemed to breathe when Faber adjusted the bellows. So the London exhibition of Joseph Faber's creation was a failure, a very bad failure. He continued to tour the English provinces with the Euphonia, but according to Hollinshead, in these rural areas he was even less appreciated. More than a decade after London, in a lonely town deep in the English countryside, Faber destroyed the Euphonia before destroying himself. What a sad story. And I can't recall the source, but it's very interesting. I don't know if it had anything to do with the ear's strangeness itself, but just wanted to let you know. I am sure we can find other instances of very strange events from 1846, but it really takes a diligent, detailed research, and I have so many other subjects that I want to continue covering and tell you about. So if you happen to know something about year 1846 and you want to continue research, I hope my video will help you. I don't think it's a coincidence with the discovery of the second moon and the strange phenomena that basically accompanied it that year, and even the UFO sighting, even cyclones and whatever else took place weather-wise that year. So thank you for your attention to my work. If you can support my research of many subjects that I cover, you can do so in the links you'll find in the description to this video. Please tell others about my channel. Please subscribe to my videos. Please like them. And I hope to bring you soon more interesting subjects. Thank you.